All right, so you guys should see my Photoshop document. Now, this is a simulation of a desktop, right? So what you want to do is when you have your pin bar, it's a simple mistake. A lot of people want to put the pin bar at the top. You really want it to be like at the bottom, right? And that's because it's going to be easier for you to flip back and forth using the pin bar at the bottom. And basically, when you do your first piece of paper, when you do your first frame, right, you don't even have to worry about your first frame being on the pin bar. So for example, you cannot have the pin bar there, and you can put your first piece of paper down and you can draw on that first piece of paper, right? But remember, you're going to have your thumbnails there to guide you, to let you know. So once you've got that initial sketch or drawing done, you're going to want to anchor it to the pin bar. So, and the other thing to think about is, I know when we talked about drawing last week, one of the things I said was stay loose, right? I want you to stay loose, but also, for goodness sakes, please, 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 don't bear down really, really hard on the paper. Like, don't act like you've got, like, you're trying to do cuneiform in a clay tablet with like a scribe or whatever. All right. Be light, because everything that you do, like, because especially once your papers are stacked one on top of the other, you know, it's going to start, you're going to leave grooves and everything in the paper. So stay loose and stay light. So, and let me show you what I mean by that. So here we go. If we've got our first page, right? So if I was going to do a T-Rex, like from the side, like being like normal, and then like, you know, coming up and going like, right? So what I would want to do is I'd want to get the motion down first. Even though I'm looking at my thumbnails, you know, I'm not scanning it and scaling it up and printing it out. I'm looking at my thumbnails, and I'm going to do like just something rough. Now, obviously, so that you guys can see it, I did it pretty dark, right? But you would be doing this very loosely and very lightly like this. And then as you put on another piece of paper, like when you put another piece of paper over it, it's going to look more like this. It's going to be more translucent. And then on that second piece of paper, you know, you'll put your next motion on there. And again, if I turn this off, you know, again, we're staying really, really loose, right? And then like as you go through, you know, this layer, your first layer would become even lighter. Your second layer would become light as well. And then, you know, you'd get to your, you know, your next step, and then that step would become lighter, and so forth and so on as we go down the line, to where maybe, you know, by the time you get to like 3 or 4 pieces of paper, you can't really see your first one anymore. But that's why you go through and you flip. So as you go through, you would be able to flip through and say, okay, so it looks like, so now I'm going to start back here and I'm going to up it up to like 100%. So I'd flip, and I'd see the next one at 100%, and then the next one, and then the next one. So I could literally, right, go through. And I can see, and if I'm good, if that motion is something I'm happy with, now I can go back after doing it very lightly and very, you know, loosely. Now I can go back with my eraser and lightly erase. And, you know, I can refine those drawings. But it will do you no good to do one, you know, your first page completely perfect and everything, and not have that motion down, because you might find, you know, you need more frames or less frames. And not to mention, I was thinking after I did this quick demo, I was like, maybe what I want to do is if I've got 10 frames of animation, you know, maybe I want to have in the first 3 frames, like a butterfly come in, you know, zip in and land on his nose. and then he flips up, screams, and the butterfly like flies off. You know what I mean? And so my point is, this is the main thrust of the action. So going through and making sure I've got this motion down, you know, I can see it. And the other thing that's really, really important, guys, is don't forget, if you're trying to do something, you know, and again, I want you to push yourself on this. I don't want a stick figure kicking a basketball, okay, which would be a circle. You know, I want you to really push yourself on it. And if there's something you don't know how to draw, Google it, right? Do the research, find what you're looking for. And the other thing would be is if you don't, you know, if you don't know how to get a motion down, videotape yourself doing it. You know how rotoscoping works. So you can use that as like your, you know, you can use that as your guide. You know, you can break it down and see what it looks like. And now to address like some of the questions in the chat, like Sydney's like, can we do the keyframes first, then work on the in-betweens? Absolutely. Like in this case, I actually, you know, did it, I did straight ahead animation. So what I did is I started with the head down here and then, you know, down, and then I moved up and then up and then up and then up. But if I wanted to, I absolutely could start with the dinosaur's head down and closed, and then the last frame, the mouth and open, and then work in between. So whatever works best for you. Some of it might be straight ahead, like when we did the fire animation, right, in Photoshop and made like an animated GIF. That was straight ahead animation. But for something like this, you might want to do, you know, keyframe kind of things and do the in-betweens and all that stuff. The bottom line is you're going to have a 10 frame animation. And I want you to utilize the page. And then I want you to, you know, stay loose, stay light until you've got that movement, the motion down. And then you can go through and finalize it. Okay. And the other thing to think about too is, you know, take your time, because today you got to have the thumbnails turned in today, period. I mean, how can you not? Most of you probably already have started on your thumbnails. And by the way, if you're in class today, look up at that desk in front of Mrs. Franklin. I've got a ton of white blank paper. Take some, take 10 sheets, take 15 sheets. I don't want you guys drawing on lined notebook paper anymore. All right. You shouldn't be drawing on that. You should be drawing on blank paper, because should you try to scan it in from lined notebook paper, you've got the lines there. So take the blank paper. But anyways, just, you know, I do want you to push yourself, look it up, do the research, find what you're trying to do. And yeah, so Kaylee says if we only got 10 frames, yeah, it's going to be short, right? Most animation is like 24 frames a second. So what we would do is with your 10 frames, we would like double them, right, in the computer when we did it, and we would lengthen that in you know, we would lengthen it the runtime of the animation. So we got somebody coming in. Hold on. So anyways, yeah, it doesn't have to be. And for example, with mine that I just showed you, of course I could have done like all the intermediary steps, but I think just having it like the main motion is fine enough, because as you know, one of the techniques that we're going to use, like we've seen it in the 12 principles of animation, there is like a squash and stretch kind of thing. So when we get these in the computer, we will be able to essentially duplicate our work and adjust, you know, our work as well. So it should be really, really, you know, really simple. And so to skip ahead, and that's what I mean, I want you to put in at least 2 solid days, at least 2 solid days of animation work. So I don't want to see in my inbox by the end of class today, I don't want to see your final 10 frame animation, right? Because I want you to put the time in, I want you to put the effort in, all right? And because this is a great portfolio piece. You want to get into college, you want to get into the school you want to get into, they want to see how you look at the world, they want to see how you know motion, they want to see how you can translate things. This is a great college portfolio piece, right? So anyways, I got somebody coming in. So just do that work, you know, put that effort into it and make it look great. So today's Tuesday, Wednesday, on Thursday, what we're going to be doing is, and I'll not, I'm actually going to do a demo for you tomorrow about scanning in class. But the other thing that we're going to do is eventually we need to get them into Photoshop. Now, those of you that aren't going to be finished until like Thursday, which makes sense. Today's Tuesday, you're going to be working on your thumbnails and starting your animation. Wednesday, we'll be finishing your animation. And then Thursday, we're going to be putting them into the computer. So, and the bottom line is, if you don't have a scanner at home, and many of you do, if you have a printer, maybe you could scan it in. If you don't have a scanner at home and you're not going to be in class on Thursday and Friday, all you got to do is take a picture of it with your cell phone, and I'll show you how to do that. I mean, everybody knows how to do that, but I mean, like, and then import that into Photoshop. Basically, from these, we are going to be making animated GIFs, and we're going to be creating the movie clips that we talked about last week. So does that make sense to everybody? Okay, so if there's no other questions, you guys know what you have to do. And please, I want to see your thumbnails today so that I can stop you if you're doing something wrong. Okay, so I want to see your thumbnails today by the end of class. Copy it up, and then we'll talk again tomorrow. I'll be here tomorrow, and we'll finish this stuff up. Otherwise, please, give Mrs. Franklin your attention and respect. And those of you at home, once again, I'm asking you if it's at all possible, which since you're drawing with your hand on a piece of paper at home, there's no reason why the bandwidth won't allow you to have your camera on so that Mrs. Franklin can know that you're being an active part of the class. So please keep your cameras on when you're at home. Those of you in class, of course, can sign off.